Hello, and welcome back to the True Crime Lounge podcast on YouTube and Spotify. I do have a Patreon that you can join for early access to episodes scheduled to come out. I also have a merch shop for all your true crime gear. For any updates on my channel or podcast, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. With that being said, let's dive into the reason you clicked on today's episode, shall we? Today we're going to be talking about the mysterious death of Thelma Todd. Now, look, y'all, I love old classic Hollywood movies. And believe me, I was very shocked to find out what some of these old Hollywood actresses and actors had to go through at this time. Um, but who is Thelma Todd? Why did she die under these mysterious circumstances? And and keep in mind, it was 1935 and she was only just 29 years old. I'll be 29 next year. Ugh. Still trying to adjust to that one. Um, Barely adjusting to being 20, yeah, 20, yeah. You get where I'm going with it. I'm repeating 25 again. But Thelma Todd was born Thelma Alice Todd on July 29th, 1906 in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Her parents were Sean Shaw Todd and Alice Elizabeth Edwards Todd. And her father was an upholsterer from Ireland, and he is said to have been an emotionally distant man. Her mom was a Canadian immigrant and a stay-at-home mom. Thelma had only one sibling, and her brother's name was Edward. Well, her brother's who was William Edwards, and he passed away August 25th, 1910, and at just 7 years old. Thelma was a kind and bright child. She was excellent. She excelled in her academics, and she wanted to be a school teacher when she grew up. So what led her to Hollywood? Well, she graduated high school in 1923 and enrolled in Laurel Normal School, now in University of Massachusetts. She planned to train and take classes to become a teacher, but her mom had other plans. At, as Thelma got older, her mom pushed for her to compete in beauty pageants, and this was mostly because her mom didn't want her daughter to become a simple school teacher. In her late teens, entered several beauty pageants, and in 1925, she won the title Miss Massachusetts. She won on the in- she went on to enter the Miss America pageant, but didn't win first place. There happened to be a Hollywood talent scout in the audience who was no who saw her potential, so Thelma gave up on her childhood dream of becoming a school teacher and went on to become an actress. She started off doing films for a director by the name of Paul Roach. She was put on two comedy shorts and proved to be great at the physical comedy, which was also displaying great beauty. And she was a rare combination of that in the 1990s, and that ultimately enhanced her popularity right there. Eventually, she was able to sign a deal with Paramount Pictures and to be in bigger films. And her first role, Paramount, was in 1926 with the movie Fascinating You. That same year, she would get a role in the movie God Gave Me 20 Cents. And as film technology improved, silent films started to introduce sounds, and movies became known as talkies. Thelma was quick to adapt to the new format and was a natural at talkies too, through her good clear voice. Her first part of the talkie was in the mm, mm, was in the Abbey Irish Rose in 1926. Her first full feature talkie was a movie called Her Private Life in 1929. Thelma went on to do 14 more comedy films, including the Marx Brothers movie Monkey Business. While she was successful in comedies, she also wanted to try dramas. So, in 1931, she had a role in Roland Arrest film Corsair. Thelma decided to create the ultimate persona for her dramatic roles and was credited as Allison Lloyd. Unfortunately, the movie was not well received and Thelma went back to doing comedies. Thelma had her own short series called Vasu Pitts and was eventually Patsy Kelly. Her shorts were about two girls who that were determined to make it in the big city. These shorts were widely popular and helped continue her success as a comedian. Her last film, The Bohemian Girl, in 1936, was released after her death, and the movie's producer decided to cut all of Thelma's scenes because of besides one song. Overall, Thelma was in over 120 films in her short life. Her career also gave her the nickname of the Ice Cream Blonde, or and Hot Toddy, a name her friends often use for her. Let's dive into her personal life for a minute. So, her personal life was more risky, kind of dangerous. Her first husband was Pasquale Pat DeSico, the right-hand man of notorious mobster Charles Lucky Luciano. Pat was a movie producer and agent at the time. Pat and Thelma got married in Prescott, Arizona in 1932, and later had a quiet second marriage in a Hollywood church. The two had a volatile relationship and were frequent drunk brawls. One incident left Pat with a broken nose, and the pair eventually divorced in 1934 during their marriage. Pat introduced Thelma to Lucky Luciano, and the two began an affair. It is uncertain how long this affair went on, but Luciano was also abusive to Thelma and would also beat her. It was mentioned that she had stopped drinking and refused champagne when Luciano offered it to her. He got angry, ended up forcing her to drink and putting the bottle to her mouth. Luciano got Thelma hooked on amphetamines, and before she married DeSico, Thelma had been involved with film director Roland West. They met in a yachting excursion in 1930 to Catalina Island. They became close and even started dating, even though West was married at the time. West wasn't much better than the other men in her life, and he was described her as controlling and possessive. It was unclear if the two dated until her death, but it was speculated they were still lovers through the years. She had a type though. You could really tell, like she liked the bad boys, and okay, so I don't know, if it's just here's the thing. In books and movies, I love a good bad boy. I don't know what it is, but in real life, I don't, I can't, I don't know what. The idea of one was I don't know. Does anybody else get understand that logic? Anyway, back to the episode, shall we? Um, Unfortunately, that could have exactly been what had killed her. She was rumored to have been involved romantically with other numbers of mob and shady characters just a few months before her death. She had been telling her friends about a new man she had been seeing, but she wouldn't reveal his name. The same year that Thelma divorced Tessico, she went into business with her ex-boyfriend and occasional lover Roland West. It is not known for certain that if West was still married or separated from Jill Carmen, but the three decided to open a restaurant together. Wait a second. She, ex-lover slash boyfriend, possibly ex-wife, and the three. That sounds messy right there, honestly. I might be overthinking it, but that just sounds like a messy situation right there. Anyway, Thelma was not only beautiful and talented, she also was brilliant and savvy. Businesswoman. The restaurant was called Thelma Todd's Sidewalk Cafe. It was the second floor of a supper club, a nightclub, and the top floor held apartments that Thelma had moved into. West moved into the apartment next to Thelma, and Carmen lived in the house on the hill behind the restaurant that was jointly owned by West and Carmen. This whole situation just sounds messy right here. I'm sorry, but it does. I might be overthinking it again. The building was owned by Carmen. West financially backed the project, and the face of the restaurant was the beautiful Thelma. The building's address was 17575 Pacific Coast Highway in Pacific Palisades, California. It opened in August of 1934 and was highly successful. The supper club hosted high-end clients from Hollywood, while the sidewalk cafe entered more of the tourists to travel along the busy highway. The location was beautiful and looked out over the Pacific Ocean. Financial problem death threats would soon come. While the restaurant was successful, it began to lose money. Luciano was rumored to have been having an affair with Thelma simply to persuade her to let him open an illegal gambling den in the upper levels. Thelma refused, and the mobster was not happy. It is believed that the mob was selling restaurant and business supplies to Thelma at outrageous prices, causing the restaurant and the supper club to lose money. A few months before her untimely death, she started to get death threats in the mail. After numerous death threats and alerting the police in March 1935, she got her a gun and a pit bull named Nibs for her own personal safety. But what happened a weekend before her death? That on Saturday, December 14th, 1935, she went to a party at Trocadero restaurant ran by a good friend Stanley Lapino. His daughter Ida, who was 16 at the time, was throwing a party. Thelma was having a good time when she saw her ex-husband, the Seco, and his new girlfriend, Margaret Lindsay, arrive. Ida explained to Thelma that she had arrived after he asked for an invitation. Thelma and the Seco got into a brief argument, and she claimed he just came to embarrass her. That could have been the case, as the Seco's date for the evening was Thelma's close friend and also a lesbian, but not known to Seco. I get, why does this whole situation just seem so messy? I don't know. I could be possibly overthinking this whole scenario right here. If I'm wrong, please, someone, I don't mean to be wrong, guys. I promise, but it sounds like a whole messy situation. And after an argument, Thelma's friend said she went back to be in good spirits and wasn't fazed by the encounter. They all they all said that she seemed fine to continue to be bubbly and have fun. Later that evening, her chauffeur, Thelma's chauffeur, Ernest O. Peters, picked her up from the party and drove her home. He drove her off in the bottom of the stairs, dropped her off at the bottom of the stairs, and early morning on Sunday, December 15th. It is speculated that she walked up the stairs to her apartment but found it locked. Wes had also told her the night before that she needed to be home before 2 a.m. because he would be locking the apartment when she couldn't get in. She walked up the stairs to the street where Carmen lived, entered the garage to get in her car. So, now let's talk about the death of Thelma Todd. Thelma's body was discovered Monday, December 16, 1935 at 9:30 a.m. by her maid, May Whitehead. Thelma was found slumped over the driver's seat of a convertible 1932 Lincoln Phantom. It was said that the car was still running, but it was out of gas. Others reports contradict this and say that the car was not running and that she was not found. She was found and that it had still 2 gallons of gas. 2 gallons of gas. May drove to the cafe to alert West about Thelma. When they got back to the garage, West stayed behind and told May to summon the police. When May left to get the police, a group of neighborhood residents gathered around the garage to see what was going on. One man, who worked as a service station attendant, said that he saw Thelma in the passenger seat covered in blood and looked as though she was been hit in the head. Police and reporters were on the scene investigating when Chief Detective Bert Wallis and Chief Medical Examiner A.D. Wagner arrived, and demanded everybody leave the garage. Even the police were forced out of the garage and the two chiefs shut the garage door. They were in the garage alone for an hour before they came out to make a statement. The chief detective told the reporters that Thelma came into the garage drunk on Sunday morning and had committed accidental suicide when she closed the garage door when the car was running. He stated that the medical examiner determined her COD was carbon monoxide poisoning with no signs of violence. She did she did have a cup tip for that he explained away was for her hitting the steering wheel when she fell asleep. Further statements from the chief medical examiner said that he estimated her time of death to be 30 hours ago around 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. After their statement, they allowed photographers and reporters in the garage to gather what was needed. When they entered the garage, there was no blood. She was now in the driver's seat. Due to the circumstances surrounding her death, her case was brought to a jury of her peers in the court and determine if it was a homicide or accidental death. The jury believed that it was an accidental death with no evidence of foul play. Thelma's body was found in that garage. There are some inconsistencies and corruption with this case. Not surprising. I do have a theory, which I will reveal my theories at the end. But what's your theories? I want to know. Let me know in the comments. Thelma's death had been a contradictory report that caused people to believe she was murdered and that the police had paid off to either fix the crime or simply look the other way. In the 19 LA law enforcement were very corrupt, especially in Hollywood. It's entirely possible that Thelma's death was a murder and that was covered up by the police. Some contradictory reports, including the ones that was mentioned in the previous section, are very suspicious. It's a rather big difference if a car was running or not, and if it indeed had gas. If the car was not on or had been running the whole night, how could she have died from carbon monoxide poisoning? If she had started the car Sunday morning, someone might have heard her, but no one did. A man who lived in the room above the garage said that the Phantom's engine was extremely loud and he never heard it turn on. Thelma was a smart woman, and her blood alcohol was shown to be only 0.13, barely over the legal limit. If this is true, then why hadn't she been severely intoxicated enough to make the mistake of turning on the car engine? She also most likely was able to meet it up with the long staircase that she needed to move on. So more inconsistencies. Her body actually did show signs of violence, unlike Chief Wagner stated. Thelma was also found to have a chipped tooth, cracked rib, and bruising on her throat and face. Some reports have mentioned that she had a broken bone as well. When they discovered her body, rigor mortis just started to set in, and if she had been really died when Chief Ragnar said she did, rigor would have already set in hours earlier, and that means she likely died 5 or 6 hours before she was found. Something else in the coroner's report doesn't make sense. Food found in her stomach was not something that was on the menu at the party. They found peas and carrots in her stomach and that they would have eaten about 6 hours prior to being found. This means that she could have been dead. She couldn't have been found dead on Sunday morning. Several eyewitnesses also have come forward to say that they saw Thelma in her car driving with a strange man. They described him as a swarthy Italian-looking man that two eyewitnesses claimed to have seen her in the stoplight when the other two were driving by. So West's own wife claimed in court that she saw Thelma out with a strange man on Sunday. One of Thelma's friends, Martha Ford, even got a call from Thelma at 4 p.m. on Sunday saying she had to cancel their dinner plans. There is a problem, though, with the idea that Thelma was still alive on Sunday. She was found in the same clothes she was wearing from the party. Her friends said that friends and family say that she would never go out without changing her outfit. Her mom said it was not possible, and she would definitely change clothes. Her mom also still believes that her daughter's death was an accident. There's a theory she may have been taken hostage by a strange man she was seen with, but that wouldn't allow her to change her clothes, and she would have still been seen around town on Sunday if she was still alive. A lot of people believe that the man was a mobster. Can you guess who that mobster was? If you guessed lucky, Luciano, you are correct. So most everyone knew of the corruption in the LAPD and the other law institutions. Baron Fuss was a DA. That threat was threatened and paid off by the mob on many occasions. It is a fact that Luciano had threatened Fitz to stay out of the way, and he just did that. Police looked away from the other crimes that might have ties to Luciano. Thelma Todd's death was a case that Fitz wanted nothing to do with. It's possible that he sent Wagner and Wallis to cover up and fix the crime scene up to make it look more like an accident, but this has not been proven. The DA also found to have been one of the most corrupt DAs in the history. In 1973, after he was exposed, he sat in a chair in his garage and shot himself in the head. There are some possible suspects to this case. Due to her death being officially declared an accidental death suicide, there is a list of suspects and just simply based theories. The first one is Pat DeSico, the ex-husband of Thelma, that had a good motive for warning her dad. She had several affairs while she was married to him and had potentially humiliated him during and after the divorce. Pat was already a violent man and had beaten other women, including his second wife. He had ties to the mob, so he had easy access to hiring a hitman, getting away with it, and he was also allegedly involved in brutal attacks on a comedian in 1937. Pat's cousin Albert Broccoli, I really want that to be, please tell me that's not your actual last name. I'm sorry if your actual last name is Broccoli. People, I really am. But Albert Broccoli, aka Cubby, and actor Wallace Beery had attacked Ted Healy until he was unconscious. The comedian Healy died the next day, but it was never officially determined if it was due to the attack or alcoholism. Broccoli made a sorry guys. I'm trying not to laugh at when I hear that last name. That's Broccoli. Anyway, Broccoli made a statement saying that the two men were in with him. It was just it, it was just him who hit Healy, but he later retracted, saying that Healy was drunk and had approached him. Broccoli said that they got into a scuffle and then shook hands and went their separate ways. Don't know if that one is true or not, but guys have this weird thing where they fight out and they're good. Why is that? So sometimes I wish women would do that some days. But anyway, our next suspect is Charles Lucky Luciano. Luciano was a notorious mob crime boss from New York that traveled to LA. Patasico said that he would have been the right hand man and had introduced him Thelma to Pat. Luciano was known for being ruthless and wanting to use Thelma's restaurant for gambling. It was speculated that he tried to get Thelma to give him the upper hand of her apartments. Instead, she said, "Over my dead body," to which he replied with, "I can make that happen." Luciano was already involved in the mob's movie unions, and that has started getting into the LA drug scene, so he wouldn't have needed to, the gambling den and Thelma's restaurant. Luciano has some anger issues, so it was possible her that just her rejection could have been enough to make him want to kill her. Um, he also had been known to kill rival drug dealers and there we go, and get away with threatening the DA. On the day Thelma's body was discovered, Luciano caught a flight out of LA around 7:45. Never returned. Possible suspect right there. Next we have Roland and Carmen and Joel Carmen. Roland, West was Thelma's ex-boyfriend and occasionally in love after her affair ended. West is known to be controlling and possessive over the women in his life. After they went into business together, Thelma was blamed for the business losing money. West could have become angry and killed her. West and Carmen were not happy about the money problems and blamed Thelma. It was reported that Carmen threatened to kill Thelma if the restaurant didn't start making money. On the night of the party, West told Thelma to be home by 2 a.m. because he would be locking the doors to the apartment. West kept his word and locked the door at that time, and he went home to bed himself about 2:30. He claimed he never heard anything and there was no knocking, no yelling. And he said that Thelma's dog Nips was starting later that morning, but West said he never heard nothing and went back to sleep. After Thelma's death, West's reputation plummeted and Thelma's death largely overshadowed his film work. His reputation was further damaged when his yacht, the MV Joetta, disappeared from the South Pacific in 1955. All 25 people, including crew and passengers, went missing. When he was on his deathbed, he supposedly told a close friend that he had more involvement in Thelma's death than he told the police. It was clear that when West and Corman got a divorce, as resources all state different years later, some say that they divorced in 1935, and it could also be that they separated in 19, and that they also but I'll say 1938. It could be that they separated in 1935, got a divorce in 1938, but nothing verifies this theory. Alice Todd is next on our list. This one is kind of a bit of a stretch, but it's still a very popular theory. Her mom, Alice, Todd was the heir to her daughter's fortune and could have been motive to kill her though. Her mother moved to LA with Thelma and had given a house by Thelma near the restaurant. It was her mother that was talking to friends and family about the building's new and bigger mansion after her daughter died, but she wouldn't have the money to afford it, and if Thelma was still alive. Alice did push her daughter into competing in beauty pageants, but likely pressured her into acting to become a school teacher, but that's never been proved. Some theorists think that she was involved in her daughter's death to get to the money. Alice believed that her daughter was in an accident and that there was no foul play that was evident. In the end, it's been 90 years, and we still don't know for sure if Thelma Todd was murdered, or the victim of the murder, or the victim of an unfortunate accident. A lot of people had motives to want her dead, and she had involved a lot of dangerous people. Thelma was only 29 when she died. She was cremated, and her ashes were given to her mom. When her mom passed away, December 18, 1969, she and Thelma's ashes were buried together at Bellevue Cemetery in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Now, here's my personal theory. Okay, guys. I think Joel, Roland, and Thelma, they were a throuple. Um, Unofficially. So I only say that because look, this whole like going into a business with your ex lover. and his wife. Yeah. So I think they were a throuple. I think they wanted a reason to have her out of the picture. And I think they saw killing her as the only opportunity for it. But that's my theory. I don't know if it's true or not. I could be wrong. But let me know what y'all think and what y'all think about what happened to her. That's it for today's episode. I will see y'all next time. Y'all have a great day.